People are always asking me, Charlie, how do I make my first million? Or what stock should I buy to get rich quickly? They come to Omaha, they sit in the arena, and they look at me and Warren like we are wizards who can conjure money out of thin air. They want the secret code. They want the trick. But as I told the students at USC years ago, this isn't a secret. It's arithmetic. And frankly, the questions are usually the wrong one. You are asking how to win, but you haven't figured out how not to lose yet. You are trying to be brilliant, but you haven't yet managed to avoid being stupid. And the most common form of stupidity I see, the thing that guarantees poverty more than any other trait, is financial anxiety. It is this constant low-level panic that drives people to make catastrophic decisions. You think your problem is that you don't earn enough, or you don't pick the right stock. You are wrong. Your problem is that your own psychology is rigged against you, and you are too busy hyperventilating to notice. Today, I am not going to teach you how to make money. I am going to teach you how to stop destroying your own wealth. Because if financial anxiety, the mathematics of life guarantee your destruction. It is just algebra. If you interrupt compounding because you are scared, you get zero. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you cannot control your emotions, you are essentially financially illiterate. Let's use inversion. This is the mental model I use for everything. Invert. Always invert. If you want to help India, the question isn't how can I help India? It's what is doing the worst damage in India and how do I stop it? If you want to be rich, don't ask how to get rich. Ask, what will guarantee that I die poor and miserable? I can give you the recipe for poverty right now. It's very reliable. If you want to be poor, you should be impulsive. You should check your stock prices every hour. You should envy your neighbor who made money in Bitcoin. You should act on every piece of bad news you read in the newspaper. If you do these things, if you let anxiety drive the bus, you will hit the wall. It is a mathematical certainty. Most people think financial anxiety is just an emotion. They think, oh, I'm just stressed. No, that is a shallow view. Financial anxiety is a cognitive malfunction. It is a breakdown of rationality. In my speech on the psychology of human misjudgment, I talked about the deprival superreaction syndrome. This is a fancy way of saying that people go bonkers when they think they are losing something. Look at Isaac Newton, one of the smartest men who ever lived. He invented calculus. He understood the laws of the universe, but he lost a fortune in the South Sea bubble. Why? Because he saw other people getting rich, people he knew were dumber than him, and he couldn't stand it. He got anxious. He got envious. He jumped in at the top, the bubble burst, and he lost everything. Newton could calculate the motions of heavenly bodies, but he couldn't calculate the madness of men, specifically his own. If Isaac Newton can go broke because of psychological anxiety, what makes you think you are safe? Let's look at the specific mechanisms of this stupidity. I have a list of things you must avoid if you want to survive. First, you must avoid the action bias. Humans are evolved to run from lions. When we feel anxiety, our biology screams, do something, run, fight. But in finance, doing something is usually the exact wrong thing to do. As Blaise Pascal said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. I see this all the time. The market drops 10%. The headlines say, recession imminent. The anxious person thinks, I must act to protect my money. So they sell. They interrupt the compounding process. They turn a temporary decline into a permanent loss. This is asinine. Warren and I have made most of our money by sitting on our asses. We buy something good, and then we do nothing for 20 years. It requires a temperament that suppresses the urge to act. If you are addicted to action, the market will destroy you. Second, you must avoid the scoreboard mentality. This is the habit of checking your net worth or stock prices every single day. This is folly. Why? Because of a psychological principle called loss aversion. Daniel Kahneman proved this. The pain of a loss is twice as intense as the pleasure of a gain. If you check your portfolio every day, you will see red numbers about 50% of the time. That means you are voluntarily subjecting yourself to psychological torture. You are triggering your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, over and over again. Eventually, the pain becomes too much, and you sell at the bottom just to stop the pain. You aren't selling because the business is bad. You are selling to relieve your own anxiety. That is a very expensive way to buy a good night's sleep. Third, and this is a big one, is the Lollapalooza effect of envy and social proof. Nothing creates financial anxiety faster than seeing your idiot neighbor get rich. It drives people crazy. It's not greed that drives the world. It's envy. When you see everyone making money in some speculative garbage, be it .com stocks in the 90s or whatever the flavor of the month is today, you feel anxious that you are missing out. This anxiety overrides your common sense. You abandon your circle of competence. You buy things you don't understand at prices that make no sense. And then when the music stops, you are the one left holding the bag. It happens every generation. The players change, but the stupidity remains the same. So, what is the solution? How do you cure this anxiety? You don't cure it with yoga or breathing exercises. You cure it with rationality and structure. You cure it by understanding the nature of the game. As I've told Warren many times, you need a system that protects you from your own nature. You need to build a lattice work of mental models that anchors you when the storm comes. The first step is to recognize that volatility is the price of admission. If you can't handle your portfolio dropping 50% without panicking, you shouldn't be in the stock market. You deserve the mediocre returns of a government bond. You have to make peace with the math. Over the long term, equities go up. In the short term, they go everywhere. If you are anxious about the short term, you are focusing on noise, not signal. Ben Graham, my teacher's teacher, gave us the model of Mr. Bear. Market, Mr. Market is a manic depressive business partner. Some days he is euphoric and offers to buy your shares for a high price. Some days he is depressed and offers to sell to you for pennies. The anxious person lets Mr. Market tell him what his assets are worth. The rational person uses Mr. Market's moods to his advantage. You must look at the market as a servant, not a master. If you are anxious, the market is your master. Another antidote to anxiety is the too hard pile. People get anxious because they think they need to understand everything. They think they need to predict interest rates or the next election or the price of oil. This is nonsense. I have 3 baskets on my desk: in, out, and too hard. Most things go in the too hard pile. If I don't understand it, or if it requires me to guess about the future, I just don't do it. By admitting what I don't know, I eliminate the anxiety of trying to be a genius. I stay within my circle of competence. If you stay inside your circle, you don't need to be anxious. You know the terrain. If you step outside of it because of greed, you should be anxious, because you are walking through a minefield blindfolded. Finally, you must understand the power of deferred gratification. This is the key to everything. Human civilization belongs to those who can wait. The ability to suffer a little bit now for a lot of benefit later is what separates the successful from the failure. Financial anxiety is often just an inability to wait. You want the result now. You want the security now. But the world doesn't work that way. It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like me have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid, instead of trying to be very intelligent. There must be some wisdom in the folk saying, "It's the strong swimmers who drown." The anxious swimmers flail about and exhaust themselves. The rational swimmer floats when the current is against him, and swims when the current is with him. So, here is the truth, stripped of all the polite conversation. If you are constantly anxious about money, you are dangerous to yourself. You are a walking time bomb of bad decisions. You need to invert your thinking. Stop trying to be rich. Start trying to be rational. Construct a life where you don't need to be smart every day. Construct a portfolio that can survive your own stupidity. Read history. Read biographies. Realize that this has all happened before. The Romans debased their currency. The Dutch went crazy for tulips. People panicked in 1929 and 1987, in 2008. The specifics change, but the psychology is constant. As I approach my 100th year, I can tell you this. A life spent in fear is a life wasted. And in finance, fear is expensive. It costs you percentage points of return, which, compounded over a lifetime, costs you your freedom. Don't be the brilliant man who dies poor because he couldn't sit still. Be the wise man who understood his own limitations, controlled his emotions, and let the mathematics of the universe do the heavy lifting. It is simple, but it is not easy. It requires character, and character, more than intellect, is what determines your destiny.